So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Epicenter. This is part 2 of the series. In the first video, I explained in depth the wide and sweep knobs and how they work, the effects they have. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the internals of the Epicenter and the jumpers that you can adjust to make your system sound better. Starting with the input grounds, that jumper right there was made in case your system introduces like alternator noise, like a whine or like a hissing noise, something that interferes with the grounds of either your head unit or your amps. So you move this jumper, you adjust it, and it can possibly reduce that signal noise. Most of the times it's not needed. You leave it exactly where it is. This is just in case you have that alternator one. The second thing I want to talk about is the PFM module. This chip right here is it's essentially a filter that stops your bass from entering really low hertz to protect your subs, to protect your equipment. The Epicenter comes stock with a 33 hertz PFM chip. However, if you want to go lower, for example 30 hertz, 25, or even 20 hertz, Epicenter does make those chips. You get them at the dealer where they sell Audiocontrol, or you can get them online. I personally leave the stock chip because my box is tuned to 32 hertz when I had it. So you want to try and match the chip to the tuning frequency of your box. If you're tuned low, like 26, 27 hertz, you would be good going with the 25 hertz PFM chip. But if you're tuned, you know, like at 34, 36, 38 hertz, you can even go up and get a 40 hertz PFM chip. So you got to be very, very gentle, very careful when you remove these. I already took this one off previously, but this is how fragile and how just, you got to be really careful with these sensitive electronics. What I've noticed in other bass restoration processors, for example, the Soundstream version of the Epicenter, the one with the spider, I read their information manual, and for some reason they don't provide the same filtering that Audiocontrol does. I think they go from like 35, 40, and like 60 hertz, which is insane. The 60 hertz, 40 hertz, that's more of like a home theater, home sound system setup. In car audio, you're definitely just kind of like 25 to 40 hertz max. Another note about Audiocontrol is they patented the Epicenter technology back in like 1975. Like that's when they invented it. And they had the patent for 20 years, which basically means nobody can copy the technology. But after the patent expires, which I read was like in 2005, that's when other companies start producing their own versions or knockoffs or whatever you want to call it. So nothing against those other brands that have their own processors, but if you want to go with the best, you go with Audiocontrol. Reason being, Audiocontrol is manufactured or at least assembled here in the United States. It's gonna cost you like 150 to 200 bucks, but again, you're getting high quality components and all these little chips and filters. Like this is all quality stuff. The cheaper processors that are 60, 50 bucks, those are budget friendly and they do work. They are gonna give you a similar effect to the Epicenter, but at the end of the day, they're just not quality built. They're not gonna last you, I don't know, 20 years like some of the original Epicenters still work to this day. Like the gray version, if you know about the gray one, you know those are from like the early 2000s. Those are just built different. Those things are still putting out clean, accurate, harmonic bass to this day. I know a few people that still have them. So long story short, if you want the best version of this, you're gonna get the original. And I don't care what anybody says, this is the best one. But if you're looking for something budget friendly, like I'd rather have a SoundStream processor, or there's like so many other brands, but I'd rather have one of those knockoffs than to not have any at all. All right, so now probably the most important jumper, the most important setting on the internals of the audio control is gonna be the bass output voltage chip or filter. So as you can see there, it does say bass output at the top, and it starts from 2.5 volts, goes to 5, 7.5, and 10. From what I read, and it was like 20 pages on the audio control manual, you want to start off, I believe it comes at 5 volts regular, but if you want to be safe and protect your equipment as best as you possibly can, you drop it down to 2.5 volts. Okay, but if you have a good amplifier, some good subs, you can start 5 volts, possibly even 7.5 volts if you have SPL woofers. 10 volts is just crazy. That's, I don't know, that's if you have like a 40,000 watt system or something crazy like that. But don't mess around and put it at 7.5 or 10 volts when you have like $1,000 system, because you could blow your subs quick. The Epicenter is really good at what it does, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can exceed the parameters of your subwoofers, regardless if you set your gain to match your head unit and you're not clipping. When you are using the Epicenter, it does exceed those parameters, so be very careful. I had a Rockford Fosgate T1500 amp power series, and I have two 12-inch JL subs, so I definitely set mine at 5 volts. Another important thing to note is the voltage that your amplifier outputs. So you read your manual for your amp. If it can handle 5 volts or 4 volts or 3.5, then you set it at 5, or like if you want to play it safe, set it at 2.5. Okay, but that's probably the biggest effect that you'll notice when you change it around when it comes to the internals. Besides the para bass knobs right here, if you switch this out, you're gonna notice a huge difference. Like, let's say I was at 7.5 volts. As soon as I start turning the knob on my of my Epicenter, the effect is gonna be so strong and so intense. At 5 volts, it's a more mild effect, and at 2.5, it's a weak effect. So let's say you install someone's system and you install the Epicenter for them, and you tell them like, be careful, you know, don't be like maxing out your bass knob all the time, like, you know. But you know this person's not gonna listen. You play it safe and you put it at 2.5 volts. So again, if you want to protect your system, 2.5 volts. If your system can handle it, if you know what you're doing, and the amplifier can call for it, 5 volts is perfect. 7.5 would be pushing it, and 10 is crazy for those, like I said, 10,000, 20,000 watt like SPL setups. Most systems are just going to be on the 2.5 to 5 volt setting. So again, this is a really long video. If you didn't watch my first video about the gain and sweep knobs, it's on my TikTok, it's on my page, check it out.